Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone! And the question we have today is, why is user research so important now more than ever? Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live. I'm Adima Zorkario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And today I have a very special guest, and I'm very happy to have with me Tomer Sharon. Yay! Tomer is the managing director and head of user research and metrics at Goldman Sachs, and the author of 3 wonderful books about user research that I really recommend. Hey, very happy.
Thanks for having me.
I'm very happy that you're here with me, and we're going to have a very exciting talk for sure. And let's just jump into the subject. What would be like, if I would ask you, what would be the secret sauce for a perfect user research?
Well, first of all, there's nothing perfect. it's
right.
In many cases, it's messy. Secret sauce, I would say just doing it. More and more, I'll be positive for a second, more and more companies and organizations understand that this is helpful and this is telling them a lot about what they should do, about what their customers care about, and so on. But a lot of companies and organizations are not doing that at all and are still, unfortunately, trusting their intuition or just look at data without any attempt to explain it with reality rather than in a virtual today meeting room inside the company.
Yeah, you're right. I see it like I've been doing like product and experience and strategy for about 20 years. And I think that in Israel, it's so like, it's not seen at all. So it's only like very big companies do that, or maybe very small, like very like once in a year or once in a quarter, or it's not really so prevalent. And I think it's so important.
I've been outside of Israel for many years now, so I'm not sure I know everything about what's going on there. It seems to me that it's growing, but I'll surprise you. Research is challenged everywhere, not just in Israel. If that's the case, I'm not sure.
But I believe like in American, like big corporate American companies, it's more prevalent. You see it more.
People ask me what American companies have researchers, and I don't know for sure that what I'm going to say is true, but it seems that Fortune 500 companies or any company you've heard of, you heard the name of a company, they have researchers. Whether that's a mature practice or not in those companies, that's a different question, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty prevalent.
Yeah. I want to, if somebody's watching us and have any questions, you're really invited. We're in the middle, like in a live show, so feel free and we'll be happy to if you'll join us. So why do you think that right now we're in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of the COVID crisis? Why do you think research is so important these days?
It's very easy not to do it. And there are always excuses for why not to do it. For example, we researchers always like to say, you need to look to people in the eyes, you need to observe their environment. I used to say, sometimes I just need to see where somebody's sitting or their home or whatever it is without even saying anything or asking anything. I can tell you about a lot of things that I learned. Now we don't have all of that. Now it's pretty much the same as what we do here. And I can see some things in your background. You can see some things on my background, and we can learn about each other without even asking about it. But it's becoming more challenging. So I would say in these times, don't put it in the back burner and do your research anyway. It really depends on where you're based. So some countries and cities are safer to go outside and do research. Some are not. Most are probably not. So Zoom is pretty much our only option. I would say insist and invest on keep doing it because yeah, there's a crisis, but still our users are the people who use what we build and create. They still care about things. Things still change for them, and it's always better to know about that than not knowing about any of that.
Sure. So we have a user on LinkedIn saying that Autodesk Tel Aviv has a researcher. So we have
Okay,
one,
I'm
and
sure
we
there are
have
more.
yeah, I guess. And I'll show you another question we have. Dalmar Hussein is asking you, what if anything has changed about your approach to atomic research since first publishing about it, Medium, like 3 years ago? Thank you, Dalmar, for your question.
All right. So atomic research, just for people who don't know what what that is, there was something that boiled in my mind for years, mostly during the time when I worked at Google. That the way we're used to conducting research and analyzing and synthesizing research is not really effective. And I came up, and this is a really long story short, but came up with an approach I called atomic research, in which we don't write reports, and instead of reports, we come up with, I call them research nuggets, small insights that are tagged really well, added to a database, and then once they're tagged and they're in a database, then you can pretty much create a report based on these atoms. So anyone can access that and find answers to questions they have. This was 1 minute about atomic research. What happened since? So since I left Google and started talking about atomic research and introducing it, I built a system with my team at WeWork at the time, and then worked on that at Google. I think this is still very young, so we're learning a ton of things every day that we're practicing it. It's not a well figured out approach yet, but again, I'll be positive. There are more and more organizations and researchers that get it and see the benefit of using it. And then another signal that I see that's really positive is that a lot of commercial products are popping up to support this approach. So me personally, it's just small lessons learned along the way to do it better. But worldwide, I think in general, there's more acceptance, more understanding. There are groups that do projects around understanding it, research repositories, research insight repositories that it has different names and different angles. And sometimes I'm a part of it, sometimes I'm not. I'm very happy with everything I see growing about that, because I think this is a way to kind of get outside of a situation that research is very much looking like a production line of reports rather than a way to better understand your users.
So it's actually making research more approachable and understandable and easy to use, because it's not like this very long report that you need to really understand.
And also it helps you. I agree. It also helps you not lose a lot of what you learned. If you ask me, I worked for 7 years at Google. If you ask me at year 6 about a study that I did in year 1, I wouldn't remember. It would be very hard for me to find the report, if at all. And if if I have the same questions again, then I would probably need to do the research again. So it avoids these situations of losing insights.
Yeah. So you mentioned you worked in Google and WeWork, and now you're working in Goldman Sachs. So could you tell us about the innovation processes and what's the difference between these different companies?
So first of all, innovation is a tricky word.
Right.
So, and I think the way I look at innovation is, let's say you have a product, you have a service, you have something, there is something. To me, innovation is measuring a lot of things related to the product, and we can talk about what these measurements are later, but measuring a lot of things, seeing where you score low, and where you score low, tell your teams, okay, let's say where the score runs from 0 to 100 and you scored 37, which is low. So
Yeah.
you tell your team, your goal is to move that needle. You have 6 months. I'm not telling you to build an app. I'm not telling you to build this feature. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm telling you, just move that needle. You find a way to move that needle. Your goal is to move it in 6 months to 57. I don't know, whatever it is. And then you open the door for what I consider innovation. To
Yeah.
me, that's how innovation looks like, rather than, and I know it's very popular, establishing an innovation group or
Yeah.
something like that. So with Google, there was never an innovation group. So I don't even know how to relate to that. With Google, there was a lot of opportunity to solve problems, a lot of freedom to do the right thing. So it was very natural. There was no need
Yeah.
to talk about innovation.
Right.
Um, WeWork was somewhat similar, I would say. At Google, I was obviously Google was and still is a much more mature company in terms of um, product development and digital product development and measurements in general. Um, WeWork was just kind of beginning to understand a lot of these things, so it was less mature, but still a lot of room for exactly what I just described, for either building something from scratch or measuring something that was created and understanding, what would move that needle, and experimenting with what would move that needle. Um, Goldman Sachs has an operation that's somewhat different than all of that. Goldman Sachs is a company that celebrated this year 151 years to its
Wow.
existence. So
Wow.
so it's very different than WeWork. They're very different than Google in terms of how long it's been doing business. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
That said, they are invested in software development as well, and services. Services they've been doing forever. Software development, several decades, I would say. But it's a very traditional company. There are a lot of advantages to that. When you talk about innovation, there needed to be some new ways of doing that. An old dog can learn new tricks, and it did. There was, and it's public information what I'm describing. Goldman started a program called GS Goldman Sachs Accelerate. Um, it's like an annual competition between employees. Anyone can submit an idea for a new product, a new service, a new whatever, and then there are judges across the company, and about 5 proposals are being selected after a long kind of filtering process, and those 5 get funded. And people
Yeah.
who came up with the idea have the opportunity to leave their job within Goldman and only do that.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like an internal startup that they're trying to build
yeah,
from
something
within.
like that. And then
Yeah.
it's been happening for, I think, 3 years, like 2 or 3 years now. I can tell you that the more mature ones are leaving that group, the Accelerate group, and are now placed within the kind of the divisions. So
Mhm.
they move to the divisions.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what I hear about and know about, related to innovation groups. Um, Time will tell in Goldman if
Yeah.
that works or not, because it's still a very young program.
Right.
Um, in other places, I've seen that it's somewhat difficult to kind of take that group from somewhat the outside and then plant it within an existing division.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is problematic in many cases when you have this innovation group or a program. You take the people outside and you train them, and they get to something, and then it's really hard for them to go back.
Yeah.
And on some cases, they are going out, and sometimes it's really hard to get them inside the company and really
Yeah.
match them together. Yeah, it's a problem about innovation programs, and it's growing within the companies. It's not something finite, and everybody's learning. But
I think innovation can perform better if people in those divisions are doing that rather than bringing somebody from the outside. Because if only people from the outside are innovative, then how can we describe the people who are doing the hard work, the hard day-to-day work within the divisions?
Right.
They're what? I mean, the answer is probably not very flattering.
Yeah, what you're saying is like it should be more like Google, which is everybody's innovating all the time and trying to make the work better than just trying to detach the innovation from the daily life of the workers or something like that.
Maybe. I mean, again, at Google, there's no conversation about innovation. So, maybe.
But what you said about research helping you do things better is only one side of research, I guess. And if you want to create something which is totally new, for example, we're in the middle of the crisis and there are so many open and new opportunities out there. Mm-hmm. So you need to really start from scratch. It's not like reinventing something or making it a bit better. And in these cases, you just really have to know what has changed with your market, with your users, with your clients, I guess. And there you just cannot really predict anything without really asking and researching, right?
I agree. And this is another thing that I kind of started talking about together with atomic research was continuous research. Continuous research is research, it's going to sound awkward. It's research without goals. With no specific product in mind. It's research where the questions are really open-ended and the people you talk with, they decide what they want to talk about. And then you're really kind of opening yourself to hearing, about a lot these people care about, do have problems with, delighted with, whatever it is, based on their choice about what to talk what to mention, what to talk about. And then you're creating an opportunity for yourself to create something you never thought of before, because you're opening up yourself to any type of input.
Yeah, it's like taking the research into some kind of like open innovation with your clients, that you get their insights and you get their ideas, and then you incorporate that into what you're doing in the company. If you do it like consistently, you could do that.
Yes. The key is, you just mentioned the most important word, probably, consistently, not just one-off. We're doing research and that's a project and it has a start date and an end date. No. It's always on.
Yeah, actually, there are several like software that are helping companies innovate, and they're incorporating information from suppliers, from clients, from users, and then they could really gather all the information all the time from the users, which is very important. So could you tell me like a use case from one of your workplaces that you helped the company innovate successfully with the research?
Okay, this is a story from WeWork. I really like it because of its, flair, let's call it. I was asked. I was head of user experience there, including that included research. I was asked to help improve sales, which is not a very common request from the user experience group.
But a very important request.
Extremely important. Long story short, we did a lot of research to understand the sales process from the perspective of people who are trying to buy from WeWork. not necessarily from the perspective of what WeWork does, what our salespeople do, and so on, but from the perspective of people who are considering WeWork as a service and product. We bumped into, we did a lot and we tracked a lot of data, but we bumped into several numbers that we were very curious about. So we saw at the time, today it's different. At the time, the only way for you to buy from WeWork was to schedule a tour, a physical tour in the building. Somebody would show you around, 10 minutes, 45 minutes, really depending on what you're interested in and the patience of the person who's showing you around and how many tours they have for that day. And then in the end, they give you a contract. They say, this, you have this price for 24 hours. You need to decide and send you away. And usually people book those tours the day before or maximum 2 days before the actual tour. The number we bumped into, the first number we bumped into was that about 70% of people who booked tours didn't show up for the tour.
That's a lot.
Yes. And then as a part of the research, we came back to not all of them, but some of these people and asked them, what happened? Anything we can learn about what happened? Why didn't you show up for the tour you booked yesterday?
Yeah.
And surprisingly, again, 70%, just a coincidence that it's the same number, but 70% of the reasons why people never showed up, the answer just amazed us. They couldn't find the entrance to the building.
Really?
Yeah. It sounds funny, but there are multiple reasons for that. First of all,
actually, I've been to WeWork Tel Aviv like 2 months ago, and they're right. It's really hard to find it in Tel Aviv.
It's not only about WeWork. I mean, buildings, I learned, are complicated. Sometimes the entrance is not very obvious. In some cases, most cases, WeWork did not own the buildings. So the landlord sometimes didn't allow WeWork to put a sign, because a sign would help. If there's a big sign, WeWork above the door, that helps.
Yeah.
But in many cases, the landlords did not allow it. So it was completely, not WeWork's fault. And sometimes it was WeWork's fault, because sometimes
it reminds me of the movie in Israel, like a big sign, see, it's an Israeli movie, but it reminds me of that.
Yeah, but it's complicated. In any case, there are multiple reasons why people couldn't find the entrance to the building. So we thought a little bit about that and asked ourselves, and this is kind of where, again, I think innovation is a funny word, but let's say where innovation happened. We thought, what would be something that can solve that? So we had an idea to ask our people in the buildings, WeWork community teams, we call them, to shoot a 5-second video of a WeWork employee with a WeWork t-shirt waving from the entrance to the building wide enough so they can see, the red door and the tree, so people can recognize where the entrance is from. And then turn it into a GIF, and then embed that in a reminder email sent to the person who booked the tour an hour before the tour. We tried it in several buildings. We did like an A/B test, divided half the tours in half, and then said, these tours continue to do whatever you did before. Half the tours, try and send that email with this video embedded. That significantly, let's be gentle, significantly improved the numbers and sales. So WeWork decided to implement that worldwide. And then the WeWork teams are really creative with the videos. We can do a lot in 5 seconds. I actually we'll put a link to that story. We have a story about all of that, including some examples.
Wow,
of these videos.
That's a funny story for sure. It's funny to think that was the reason.
Yes, really funny. It actually happened to me. My first month at WeWork was undercover. I didn't tell anyone that I'm joining, and I I toured a lot of buildings, and I even joined as a WeWork member without anyone knowing. It happened to me many times that I was standing in a McDonald's with the right address, and there's no WeWork.
Wow.
And so
Man, that's
I
amazing.
knew I wasn't unaware of this problem, but I was completely unaware of the magnitude of the issue.
Sure. And Maya is telling me us that it's very interesting. So thank you, Maya. And what you told me like till now is mainly about qualitative research. What about taking the data and looking at the quantitative information?
So I would call it experience data. There's a lot you can learn if you measure the experience. Um, in the research world, in the user experience world, there's a lot of confusion into what is an experience measurement or experience metrics. So I'll say a word about what it is and what it isn't, and what at least what
Sure.
I refer to. So
Sure.
anything you measure during qualitative user research, I put it aside. That's not what I mean. What I mean is everything you measure once the product is out. Okay, and then I want to I'm going to start very high level. I would say there are five things, five kind of areas where I'm looking at. One is what happens in people's minds. Are they happy with the product or whatever it is? Two, are they deeply involved in it? Or that's kind of all the rest are related to usage, not what happens in their mind. Deeply involved is engagement. Are they just trying out or using obvious and superficial features of the thing, or are they deeply involved? And as a product development team, you know what deeply involved
Yeah.
means. So look for
It's
these
like
signs.
more like engagement, what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Hmm.
I was trying to avoid the word because it means so many things, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and then everything related to new. So new features and how fast they're adopted, or new users and how much growth you have. I would look at that. Um, and then probably the most important area is, are you able to keep your users?
Yeah.
So retain them.
Yeah.
Are they coming back? And
Yeah.
then lastly, once they're using the thing, are they successful? Can they do what they want to do?
Nice.
All of that can be translated to dozens, if not hundreds, of different metrics. And obviously, we don't have time to talk about all of that. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, these are the five categories. If they sound familiar, it's not by coincidence. I based that on the Google Heart framework
Hmm.
for deciding what to measure. So Heart stands for happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and task success. So these
Hmm.
are kind of the five areas where, if you measure the experience under these five areas, then you're going to get a pretty good picture about whether the experience is good, bad, what the trend is, um,
Yeah.
surprises. So you think everything's great and then it's dropping, and so on, or success of
Sure.
something you launched. So let's say for whatever reason, you redesigned something, so you can see if the trend is, improving or not. Usually it's going to go down and then it's going to go up.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the
Yeah.
general idea.
But I've got the feeling that it's done more because it's more accessible. It's much easier. You can measure like from the development itself. You have so many measurement and metrics that you're measuring, and you just need a few more. And it's easier technically to do it. So you can measure that as part of the performance measurement and other measurement that the developers are doing. And then you just need to interpret that. While if you really need to talk to users, it's not by coincidence. You really need to go out and meet them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I always like to say that even if you do everything I just described in terms of measurement, that's exactly half the picture, because you know what happened, you have no idea why. You can guess,
Hmm.
and most people guess, but you'll never know why. Even if you put five really smart people in a room,
Yeah.
um, whoever they are in the company, and you
Yeah.
guess together, which makes kind of creates the feeling that you're right. Um, only talking with your customers will tell you
Yeah.
the real reasons for why the numbers are what they are.
Yeah, and you see it all around, like if there is one sentence that I said like thousands of times to my clients is like, you're not the client, you're not the users. You cannot really anticipate anything or predict anything. You just think you are, but you're not. And you hear it a lot, especially in Israel where they know everything. So it's like it's
So
like part
again,
of it.
I thought so too when I moved to the US, but I'll surprise you. It's everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you surprise me now. So, what do you think are the challenges that innovation leaders are facing these days with this crisis? And somebody tells you that it's so true. So, somebody agrees with you. That's good in our audience.
I think what we're lacking these days, or in the past few months, I mean, it really depends where you are, but we're lacking the interaction with our peers, kind of
Right.
in the same room. Um, you and I talked before about the coffee break that is
Right.
non-existent,
Yeah. We
and
said that now people understand the importance of a coffee
yeah,
break.
yeah. um, so I think that's missing. I think I even read that Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, talked about that. How do we innovate in this time? What is the effect on innovation during this time? Um, I think that's key. Kind of social. It's not really socializing. It's just working together with people in
Yeah.
person is now difficult. Sometimes
Yeah.
impossible, and difficult. So nobody knows what's going to happen. When is this going to be over, if at all? What would it look like? But I think we understand that whatever it is, there's going to be a component of us coming back together,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
I totally.
not in Zoom. I mean,
Yeah, I totally agree
and,
that in order to really create something, you need to co-create and to collaborate, not over a virtual connection. And you have this energy together that you cannot really
yeah,
create this way.
yeah.
So, what is the most surprising thing you learned about user research after so many years in research?
Surprises that there are always surprises. I mean, I remember I don't do that anymore, but there were times where, for fun, we did it at Google with the engineers and with the product managers and even researchers. Let's say there was a certain, I don't know, whatever usability test. So we wrote down on a piece of paper what we think the outcome will be, put it in an envelope, and only opened it after the study. And then
Mhm.
for the most part, we were all wrong,
Oh, all right. Okay.
including researchers. A lot of people turn to researchers and say, you did a lot of research, you saw so many people, and did studies with thousands of people, so you must know what works and what doesn't work. Um, and sometimes you ask yourself and say, yeah, I should know because I've seen so much, but
Yeah.
it's still always surprising.
Yeah.
And you learn that sometimes, we don't do research with a lot of people. So sometimes, I don't know, you do research with 10 people, and let's say, again, usability test, 9 people succeed in doing something and one person doesn't. Does it mean what does that one person mean? Does it mean that it does not exist? It did. You just sat there
Yeah.
and saw that it existed. So should you ignore it? Should you not ignore it? Um, there are, there are always
Yeah.
surprises. You're always surprised by what you see. Human behavior. I mean, people
Yeah. Surprising. Amazing.
always surprising.
Yeah, I think that staying curious is so important these
Yeah,
days, and it's part of being a researcher. It's like you don't know, you're trying things out, and you want to see what's the result. So that's the fun part about doing
yep.
research. Okay, so could you tell us where could people hear more about you and contact you about your work?
They can contact me. I'm not sure I'm going to contact back real quick in any standard, but probably Twitter is the best place. I know it's not very popular in Israel, but
Yeah.
elsewhere it is. So Twitter is probably the best place at TSHARON at T Sharon.
Wow. So we have one last question, and I'm going to show you. Like, here is Gadi, and he's asking about the importance of a coffee break. You have mentioned the water cooler chat that is lacking nowadays. How can this be replaced post-COVID, as employees won't go back to the offices 5 days a week? What do you think?
I think I can read some minds. So it's complicated. I mean, again, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know that we want to be together. We know we can't be together at home. We know that we can be together in the office, but it's problematic. So we need to find the middle way, somewhere in between. That's not home and it's not the office. Maybe existing places already. Maybe they're close to home, maybe not.
Yeah.
Where we are capable and able to meet our peers, interact with them, and not just our peers, meet people in general, interview candidates, have sales-related meetings with potential customers. This can happen in existing places who are now suffering tremendously. I'm talking about bars, pubs, restaurants, cafes, coffee shops, anyone who can host you. We have that opportunity to do something about that. Whether that's going to happen or not, I think it will. I think companies now, it's a cultural change for them. They need to accept the fact that the office is probably not going to be what it was before. Even after, maybe not after the virus, because the virus probably going to stay with us, but after the vaccine, things are going to change. A lot of people agree on that.
Yeah, I think that we'll find a way to be together. So right now it's like a change. It's a change and it takes time, but people will find the way and the places which is most important for them to relate to each other, which is like in a different perspective, and they will find the right solution for it. And in some cases, it's just like going and doing very small meetings outside the office and just meeting one of your peers. And it could be like you could have a space which is not only talking about what we need to do. It's part of the small talk that we usually don't have in virtual. So people will find a way because it's a very human nature thing to relate to each other, and I'm sure it's going to change.
I'll tell you a secret. It already happens. It's already happening. People, whether their companies allow it or not, they meet with each other. And I mean, people who work together, they meet because they crave that and they need that. We all do.
They miss each other. They miss the human connection. So thanks, Gadi. And the last one is Vivian, who says that both of us are friends from the World Usability Congress. So hi, Vivian. Maybe we'll meet there next week, next year, and we'll do it both together, which would be wonderful.
I hope so. So. It's a fun event.
So yeah, I truly do. So I want to thank you for your time, and it's been such a pleasure and really interesting and insightful. And we'll leave all the links to contact you and to the books, which are very recommended. We'll put it on the links. And thank you for being with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Andy. It was fun.
Yeah, and all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye. I'm Adima Zorkario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.